Hi guys, so today we are going to start with something on acupuncture or TCM, which is like the basics of what we do at our hospital. So let us understand from the most base level what acupuncture is, how does it work, and what are the things that make acupuncture such a hard to believe magical science. It is taken by most people as like a pseudo-science because it doesn't have scientific proofs, and that the chi, that is the energy that acupuncture uses to treat people, is not seen scientifically. So most of the time it is taken as, it's a bogus thing, it's just a placebo effect. People just imagine things and they stick bunch of needles into people. But let us dig into the reality of acupuncture. First of all, the origin of acupuncture goes back to more than 5,000 years back, or pretty maybe even older than that. No one knows. But the records of the books that were written, they go to around 5,000 years back in India as well as in China. In India, originally it was practiced long time ago during the time of Mahabharata as well. It was practiced back in those days, like around 3,000 years, 5,000 years back, that it must have some scientific reason to it, because today we are dependent on too much of technology, too much of equipments to detect certain things and call it scientific. But in olden times it was more of a personal experience based. Earlier it was more of a subjective kind of experience, and subjective experience, you have to understand, it comes from a deep meditative state. When we talk it about subjective, a lot of people think so it is just a perception of an individual, it is nothing like real that exists. No, everything is real in this life. All your disorders are all subjective. The headache that I have is not the same headache the other person is feeling. So there is no such thing as objective or subjective when it comes to science. Science is all about discovering things. Science is all about understanding things, how it works from that perspective. It is irrespective. It is like if you can replicate it to hundreds of people or not. But for that individual, for that particular person, if it is subjective, the treatment is also subjective because the results are going to be subjective. So let us understand from the basics how acupuncture works. So acupuncture revolves around the theory of qi. So what is qi in Chinese? If you go to explain qi, then you will have a definition of qi, that everything that moves your body, that keeps you alive, that helps you breathe, and everything is qi. But that is just a bookish knowledge. It is not what actually how the old people, the ancient, discovered qi. To understand chi, you have to go to their level. You have to stand at their place. And you have to be them to understand what chi is. And not just imagine what they will think. Chi, as they mentioned, it was "zhineng yi kuei bu neng yan chuan." So what does that mean? It means that you can only experience it. You cannot actually talk about it to other people. The second you tell something to other person, hey, chi is a sensation I feel in my arm traveling around this particular line, then it's not chi anymore. It is just a sensation that is transferred by nerves or something. Chi is a very subtle thing. So that is why the ancient people classified it into two different things. One is called chi, which is coming from your food or the energy that drives the body, which is the most commonly understood chi in our acupuncture science. So it comes with a character. So remember first, before we proceed any further, the Chinese language is a beautiful language which revolves around characters which depict the reality in form of pictures. So chi in a Chinese character, it's like it has this character which is mi. Mi means rice, and on top it is like a steam, like it is like vaporizing. So what does that mean? It means that the chi, when you're cooking rice, what is that chi that is generated when you cook rice or when you eat that rice? So let us take an example of cooking rice. Okay, so when you cook rice, you boil it, right? When you boil rice to a certain extent, you see a steam coming up. So that steam is written in the form of a character. So the rice, when it is cooked, carbohydrate, when it's cooked, carbohydrate is the one that gives you energy. So old time people know the main source of energy is carbohydrate. So that is rice. And people knew this. We have forgotten it now. Most of the time, we think that energy comes from everything else but the carbs. So we do some anti-carb diets, I would say. So let us say, so this energy that drives the whole functioning of your body, that chi, comes from this rice when you boil it. So you have noticed, like your parents or your mother, especially when she's cooking the rice at home, she's actually inhaling the real essence of the chi. What remains is like, say, 50% of it is inhaled by her, say around 30% of it is remaining in the water that we kind of throw because we think that is not necessary. In India, we make porridge where the porridge is boiled, this chi is vaporizing, the water is what contains around 30% of the actual nutrients, and the least amount of nutrient that is present is the final physical rice that is. So if you ever want to attain energy from a porridge, then you have to actually cook it yourself. That is the best part of it, because the cooking process makes you inhale all that energy. Then it comes from the water that you drink, and lastly from the rice. So you would notice that mothers who are spending so much time, so much of energy cooking, are eating very less compared to the other family members who are gulping food down their throat. While they are not getting much of energy, because half of the energy through this cheat code is consumed by your mother or the one who's cooking in your house. So if you really want to experience what chi is, you have to actually cook food. That is the most beautiful part of the day. If you cook food, then most of the energy that you require is actually inhaled through that. Then comes from the water or the curry that you make, and the last is from the physical aspect. So, my friend, first of all, if you want to understand chi, then the most commonly used term, that is chi, the energy, the vital energy, then you have to actually cook food yourself and experience it once. After this, let us talk about the second part of the chi, which internal martial arts like Tai Chi Chuan and Bagua Jam, we are talking about yogic prana or yogic chi, which is not any, even not a formless chi. It is beyond the formless chi. It is not existential, but yet it is existing. So it is something like, it is present. You feel it, you can experience it, but not with your senses, but it exists. It makes you beyond the physical part. So we call it Wu Ho Chi. So Wu means nothingness. It is absolutely nothing. It is like void, and fire, which is present in that character, is basically an empty energy which is present throughout. The most beautiful understanding of this chi is coming from Star Wars. Now, you'll be surprised that the concept of Star Wars is mainly derived from Eastern civilization, from Japan, from China, from India, because all their concept, the energy that they are talking about, the force, may the force be with you, is basically may the chi be with you, may the prana be with you. It's just a different name, but what they explain is basically this energy that is existing, the dark energy force that is existing throughout the universe. That is what makes this universe work, to run this universe, run us, run the trees, run everything around us. That essential energy is basically the force, and it is present in each and every one of us. So, what acupuncture does is acupuncture works at two levels. If you go into a physical acupuncture where you just stick needles and use some physical manipulation, then this acupuncture is driving or regulating or manipulating the energy that we just talk about, the physical the elemental form, we can say, or the material form of the chi, which is non-physical, yet it exists in a emptiness. While there is this spiritual part of acupuncture, which is very less explored, which is mostly hidden, and which is mostly practiced in Taoist culture, is the Wu Hojichi. And that, to experience, You have to either practice internal martial art, some kind of Zen meditation, and all those pranic treatment, pranayama, or yogic practices to experience it. And that, when you practice as an acupuncture doctor, then only you can actually use it for the betterment of the people around you. So, acupuncture, it looks just like you're just sticking bunch of needle into people and doing some manipulation, but it goes way beyond that. So, chi, if you ask me, I will never tell you what chi feels like, because it is something that you have to experience yourself. Your perception, your feeling of energy is different from every other person out there. So the energy, the chi, is the most essential part of everything around us. You can name it. In Daoism, there is a very interesting saying. In Daoism, the first chapter, the first few lines of Tao Te Ching, which is the most sacred book of Taoism, it talks about how we name something and it loses its meaning. Dao ke dao, fei chang dao, ming ke ming, fei chang ming. So what it means is that if Tao, or that this cultivation path, or the ultimate goal that we talk about, that enlightenment that is pursued in Taoism, if you talk about it, Dao, ke Dao, if you talk about it, then it is not the Dao. It is something else. It's part of your imagination, it's part of your overthinking. It is not the real thing, because the real thing cannot be expressed in words. Ming ke ming, fei chang ming. So if you name something, if you name thing, for example, for a person, if you in Hindi you call it like insan, but that name, if it is given in Chinese, it will be run. So the name, the pronunciation, the word change, but does that mean the meaning change? No. It doesn't represent what you say, but it is what it is in its reality without the experience of Maya. So, no matter what you call it. So, that is why acupuncture becomes very complex, because what happens is we give it a name, we give it chi, energy. In energy, we think, okay, electrical energy, heat energy, this. So there it loses the whole essence of energy. And then every other wrong ideologies of acupuncture treatment, like neuroacupuncture, muscular acupuncture, dry acupuncture, all these wrong notions of acupuncture come to existence, because we are giving a non-physical entity a physical name. So the name is what destroys the whole ideology. That is why, because acupuncture is a Taoist concept, so you have to follow the principle of Taoism, and it talks about how you cannot go behind the name of the things. If you give it a name, then it loses the essence it packs in it. The essence is what makes the effect. It makes what acupuncture in its pristine form is. So we are going to talk about more detail about acupuncture, but this is an introductory, because if you get this right through your head in the beginning, what acupuncture actually is, it is not just pricking of needle. You might not even need needles for that matter, because if you can tap into this energy, this supernatural, I will not call it supernatural because it is very natural. Only thing, because we cannot see it, we cannot use equipments, we cannot use technology to detect it, we cannot use an objective way to identify it, we call it pseudo, it doesn't exist, but it's a very real thing. Now I'll tell you why we are not able to achieve this kind of feat. It's because, let us take an example of infrared light. In an infrared light, you cannot use a UV detecting device or a EM detecting device to detect a infrared light. Can you? No, because everything has its own frequency, everything has its own purpose. So everything has its own capacity to detect something. So you will need an infrared camera, infrared lens to detect an infrared light. Simple. So, chi is something that is a spiritual thing, which is beyond the physical, which is more of an internal cultivation thing. When you activate your internal channels, when you go into deep meditation, then you can experience the chi. You can even feel the chi. You can even see the chi. Right? So, if you find equipments like electromagnetic wave detector, then you find infrared detector, and try to find what cheese, and you are not able to find anything, then it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That is the most non-scientific thing to say, because science is not what I see is science and what I don't see is not science. Science is everything, the study of nature. You strive to find the hidden things of the nature, and that is what science is. The persuasion, the eagerness to find what we think is mysterious and find a logical explanation to it, that is science. Just because you are not able to find the right means, right technology, right uh, explanation to these things, doesn't mean they don't exist. It means that you have not achieved the capacity, you have not developed the technology, you have not developed the knowledge to actually detect. Ancients have discovered that knowledge. They have written it in the books. They have written it in Vedas. They have written it in Fountain Aging. They have written it in Taoist books. Everything is written, step by step process of how to cultivate yourself so that you can see this chi. So it is same as like telling you to, can you see an electron? No. But you believe a person who has studied for years, done experiment, developed an electron microscope, and then he is able to see it, so he has written it in a paper, and you read the paper and you believe that electron exists, although they don't exist somehow. After years of research, it is found out that the electrons are just energy, they don't have a physical form. So if that procedure, if you want to actually see the electron by yourself, you have to go through the whole studies, years of PhD, years of research. You have to develop the electron microscope, you have to see it yourself, and through these years of practice, finally then you can see, I can see the electron, that is why electron is scientific, and hence I'm going to write a paper that I have seen an electron. So ancient have deduced the same thing in Vedas. In Vedas, in Ayurveda, in Taoist books, Taoist cultivation books, they have clearly mentioned what are the procedures, how you to, from physical to mental to emotional to spiritual, how to develop your senses, how to use your own detector, this body, to detect this spiritual entity, chi, spirit, soul, everything. And if you follow this procedure like a scientific student, science student, you, my friend, will also be able to see with your own detector. And then, if you write it down, it will be a spiritually existing scientific discovery. So, that is how a true science discovery is. And only through these procedures, through time tested values, through time tested treatment, that you actually know for sure that acupuncture is not a pseudoscience. It is not some hocus pocus man made thing. It is actually something that exists. And if it did not exist, with time it would have perished. But for thousands of years, it still exists. It has been still treating people. It has been curing disorders. It has been curing disorders from so many years. It has seen all sorts of pandemics, epidemics. It has seen all sorts of development of civilization, decline of civilization, change of yugas. It has seen everything. It has seen wars. It has seen how anatomy is performed, how anatomy was developed, how most people have a misconception that acupuncture doesn't know anatomy. It is just like you just look at the skin and you prick. No, acupuncture, it was developed in a time when it was a war time, and during that time you had innumerable corpses. You just have to pick, cut, and you will find anatomical dissection everywhere. You could see like skin layers, you can see like blood flow, everything, and it was documented. And that is how acupuncture developed. Everything from physical to energy to spirit to emotion, everything was documented. So, and it was documented to such an extent that even prisoners who were given death sentence, they were even cut while they were alive, layer by layer skin. And the doctor who was supposed to cut it was given strict instruction that each and every layer of his skin has to be documented. If and when he is alive. If it was not, and if the person dies, if before you complete the documentation, then you will be next one on that list of being dissected. So it was such a thoroughly studied science. It was not an imaginary thing. Everything was done properly, even in Ayurveda, even in acupuncture, and hence these sciences have been existed and time tested. Just because we see technology, we see so many equipment, so many big research labs, and they have done so much research, we think that Western medicine is superior. No, it is still a baby. It's still discovering things that are beyond physical. They don't even know that a person has different levels of energy that results in disorders. Hence they have no solution to problems like migraine. They just have painkillers which are not treating the root cause, because you don't see a physical change in the person. So hence acupuncture is the most essential part of today's world. It has to be practiced in the most pristine, most original way. Then only it will bloom like how it used to bloom thousands of years ago. And then only acupuncture will reach to its true glory, and we will be healthy without any side effects. Remember, we are progressing. We think that we are developing countries, we are developing people. When you develop, the disorder should go down, it should not increase. With scientific technology, with medicinal technology developing every day, we are seeing the disorders and the diseases are increasing than decreasing. Why is it happening? That means something is going wrong. The scientific discoveries that are actually happening are actually making us more sick rather than making us more healthy. So we are not actually developing, we are not going forward, we are going backwards. So the real idea is to develop into something that the ancient have time tested. It has seen through time that it has developed through time, and it has not perished. And we have to make sure that we rebuild that original essence of acupuncture in India, in China, and all over the world. And that more and more people can go to acupuncture without the fear, without the question mark in their mind that will this work? Is it actually scientific? Will it actually have an effect, or should I go for surgery? That question itself should not exist, because this treatment has been treating lakhs and millions of people all around the world for thousands and thousands of years. So the question itself should not exist. Acupuncture has existed ever since the human beings were made, because this point, this wiring inside your body, they are not coming in recent years. They have been existing there since you are born. We are just using our brain, using our knowledge, using the wisdom of the ancient people to just redevelop and re-research everything, going deeper and deeper through spiritual practices to unearth all those scientific things that has been practiced before. And then only we will be able to treat better and better. That means it is already part of you. It already is part of you, so it will never be able to harm you unless it is practiced in wrong way. If it is practiced illegally without having a proper knowledge, then yes, it can harm you. But in right hands, in a professional hands, it will only be beneficial to you without any side effects, unlike any other system of medicine. So like this, share it to maximum number of people so that we can make people aware about this beautiful time tested science, and let us make sure that we develop this science to the era when it was flourishing the highest. And to subscribe to our channel for more such information, more such knowledge, which is very unique and you will never find it anywhere else unless you have actually studied it. So let us study together, let us grow together, let us become wiser. Subscribe our channel and let us be wiser every day. Thank you.